afternoon and welcome to this, the weekly press briefing of the General Secretary of the People's Progressive Party, Mr. Clement Rohi. Mr. Rohi will read a few prepared statements, after which he will take questions first on those statements and subsequently, depending on the availability of time, questions outside the statement.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's just one statement I'd like to read as follows. Today marks 100 days since the APNU AFC committed itself to the fulfillment of a 100-day action plan deliverable by August 24, 2015. The PPP wishes to bring to the attention of the public that of the 21 actions, 7 were to be delivered through the budget 2015, 8 were in progress, 4 are in advanced progress, while 2 are partially complete. In sum, none of the actions contemplated have been fully implemented, save for the holding of 2 conferences or talk shops and 2 pieces of questionable legislation, which will not bring any immediate relief to the suffering and hard-working Guyanese. The ludicrous claim by Mr. Harmon that his government deserves an A grade for delivery of his 100-day promises is a most presumptuous statement. Nagamutu's update scheduled for this week, which actually took place just now, will in no way bring any relief or satisfaction to the Guyanese, who will undoubtedly give the coalition an F grade. Number 14 of the action plan calls for the establishment of quote-unquote a task force on crime and security and on road safety, end of quote. This plan has not been realized. In the meantime, the crime situation has become unpardonable and abominable. Statistics will show that for the first 100 days of the APNU and AFC coalition government, there were 147 serious crimes, including 26 murders, 5 attempted murders, 39 robbery under arms, 8 cases of seized firearms, and 21 cases possession of narcotics occurred. The situation has deteriorated to the extent where residents at Quarantine Bobbies took to the streets to protest the lack of security and protection and call for the dismissal of Ramjatan as Public Security Minister. Many people see him as completely hopeless and unsuitable for the job. Guyanese are becoming more and more fed up with the excuses and platitudes being trotted out to them by government spokespersons, telling the criminals and the population, quote, "We are coming after you," end of quote. Another quote, "The crime situation is under control." A third quote, "Measures are in place to tackle the upsurge in crimes." And finally, that the state will not sit idly by and allow criminals to run riot in the streets. Confusion is at its highest insofar as who is really in charge of the security sector, with Granger, Harmon, Collins, and Ramjatan, all vying for publicity and who claim to be security and intelligence experts, except Ramjatan, who claims to have all the solutions. Collins, having intruded in the portfolio of Ramjatan, was expected to present his recommendations to Granger at the end of August, while the Commissioner of Police is expected to have delivered his proposals already. In the meantime, while we heard that Ramjatan was fine-tuning the plan, which was delivered at Cabinet only last week. More recently, an apologetic backsliding statement came from Mr. Granger himself when he purported to have said, quote, "Turning the tide in the fight against crime is impossible in only 3 months," end of quote. Mr. Granger has obviously had a rude awakening and has set himself a time frame in military style for the turning of the tide in the fight against crime. Most importantly, he is apparently laboring under the impression that his fellow countrymen are a forgetful people and that they have completely forgotten what he told his constituents on the campaign trail about bringing down the crime situation with his magic wand or his silver bullet. It is laughable for Mr. Granger to claim that the police now have, quote unquote, a more efficient reporting system that allows them to churn out information more rapidly, thus creating the impression that the crime situation is spiraling out of control. Is Mr. Granger suggesting that should the police slow down the efficient reporting system, we will see a drop in crime? The truth is that the Guyana Police Force over the years have developed a well-established reporting system on the crime and road traffic situation in Guyana, whereby monthly statistical reports are issued. Every day, a crime bulletin is circulated to members of the security sector, and every morning, the Minister of Home Affairs, now the Minister of Public Security, receives a phone call from the Commissioner of Police updating him on the crime and traffic situation in the country. Further, the claim that the Granger administration inherited, quote unquote, a weak police force and that it was kept, quote, weak by the Jagdeo administration, end of quote, is a blatant untruth. At none of the presidential and ministerial engagements with the Commissioner of Police and commanders of the police force during the PBBC tenure in office was such a view ever expressed by the police force's hierarchy. Further, the promises to bring heaven on earth to the effect that Guyanese will, quote, will be able to live in a safe environment, end of quote, is nothing but wishful thinking. Already Guyanese are experiencing a living hell under the Granger administration, economically and socially. All the talk that the areas of focus will be piracy, improved policing groups and patrols is disingenuous, to say the least. The PBPC administration, in fulfillment of its anti-piracy plan, spent billions on the procurement of boats and training of ranks to strengthen the marine wing of the Guyana Police Force. 4.4 million was spent to rehabilitate the Central Marine Station at Rhineville. Outboard motors, balhoes, aluminum, boats, and a workboat costing a whopping $720 million was spent. Vehicles and equipment costing $218 million, together with a cabinet approval, to increase the establishment of the Guyana Police Force from 3,410 to 4,596 ranks, along with approval to increase the strength of the Special Constabulary from 322 to 968, cannot, by any stretch of imagination, be deemed a weakening of the Guyana Police Force. Further, Mr. Granger referred to improved community policing groups and patrols, a total fallacy. In the 2015 budget, there is no provision on the capital for community policing organization in Guyana. Contrary to what Mr. Ramzatan told the National Assembly, that the vehicles seized from community policing and handed over to the police would be returned to the community policing groups, and that there is provision in the 2015 budget for additional vehicles. Ramzatan has actually crippled community policing groups. Apart from taking away vehicles assigned to the CPG, he has dismissed a number of liaison officers and replaced them with AFC activists who have tainted police records. Finally, in respect to the use of technology to fight crime, it should be pointed out that under the PBPC administration, a plan was already being implemented through the use of CCTV cameras in the city, from historical to real-time data gathering and utilization. The plan was to integrate web-based crime maps with CCTV cameras and to extend crime mapping to cover every police division, especially the city of Georgetown. It is high time that the Granger administration come clean and let the Guyanese people know that they have failed miserably in addressing crime in Guyana, and that all the talk about the plan being fine-tuned and that there's a 5-point plan, that the 5-point plan was being implemented, means nothing to the Guyanese people when every day of its 100 days action plan, crime is really out of control. Thank you.
We now take questions first on the statement.
Kurt Campbell, News Source. Minister, you heard your criticisms of the government A grade, and you saying that the Guyanese people would give the government an F grade based on the implementation of many of these promises. What I want to ask is, what grade would the PPP give the government, which I suspect is an F grade?
F
But I
grade.
would just want to ask.
F grade.
Any other questions on the statement?
Mr. Ray, from Action again, thanks. The party has been, you've spoke a lot about what was done and what the government lacked in addressing the crime situation. As a former Minister of Home Affairs, what would you propose for them to do? Or what are some of the strategies, or where you think they're going wrong? Or what do you think they should do going forward to address?
Well, we left a number of strategies at the Ministry of Home Affairs, which was not only relevant up to the time when the elections were held, but is relevant for quite a long time to come. For example, we have the reforms at the police force, we have the reforms at the Guyana Prison Service, the Guyana Fire Service, and at the Ministry of Home Affairs itself. Those reforms, when fully implemented, are expected to bring about greater institutional oversight and responsibility compared to where it is now. So that's number one. Number two, the Citizen Security Program 2, which is a successor of Citizen Security Program 1. The implementation of the Citizen Security Program 2, funded by the IDB, is also expected to bring law enforcement agencies closer to the communities. That is number two. Number three, this whole question of crime is part and parcel of what we call interpersonal violence. Crime is a major component of interpersonal violence. And if you want to tackle crime, you have to go in the direction of interpersonal violence, which means you bring together not only the Guyana Police Force and the law enforcement agencies, you bring together the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Health, the social cohesion, all those social oriented ministries, because if we agree, which I heard Mr. Rambutan said, that this thing has certain sociological orientations and roots, it means therefore that it's not only the police that should be called upon to fight crime. We have to bring in all the social sector agencies and departments in a holistic approach to fighting crime. And this is what we were seeking to do when we held the Conference of Interpersonal Violence at the Convention Center that was known then in 2014. We were about to hire a consultant to put in place an action plan and a framework for implementing the recommendations that came out of that conference on interpersonal violence. If you don't go in that direction, then you will continue to fail miserably, because crime and interpersonal violence cannot be solved only by the law enforcement agencies. You have to bring in the social sector agencies and departments as well.
Hannah Duncan, HGP Nightly News. GS, would it be safe to say that in giving the government an F grade, so far there is nothing laudable that the government has done since it has taken office?
No, I don't see anything at all. When we come to ask questions in respect to the capital and the current allocations for the ministry, the first 8 months of the Ministry of Home Affairs, and then the rest of the last 4 months of 2015 for the Ministry of Public Security, you will see where a number of deficiencies are in terms of allocation of resources. In addition to that, since the ministry has been dissected into three, part going to Mr. Felix, which is immigration services and so forth, we have a number of questions to ask there as well, and part going to Mr. Harmon at the office of the President, or the Ministry of the Presidency, a number of questions will come up there. So I am looking forward to a very exciting discourse, question and answer period in respect of the Committee of Supply, where we will have the opportunity to ask the minister certain questions.
Any other questions on the statement or outside of the statement?
Thank you very much.
Mr. Lehman.